in arthropods, let's look at the last part, which is the insecta, class insecta, and the general characteristics. Why would we call an animal an insect? It must have three main body parts, that is the head, the thorax, and the abdomen, and then it has to have 3 pairs of legs, or 6 legs. And then the thorax has to be subdivided into 3 parts. That is the prothorax, the mesothorax, and the metathorax. Now we have examples of common insects that we see most of the times. That is the housefly, we have the cockroach, we have the bee, honeybee, we have the soldier termite, we have the grasshopper, we have the wasp, we have the sugar ant, mosquitoes, and butterflies. Now each of these insects has functions in the environment. They have importances, economic importances. This is a disease causer, that is a disease causer. The honeybee makes honey, which has many beneficial nutritional functions and also pollinates flowers. Soldier termite play a major role in decomposition and also destruction. We have the grasshoppers. These ones also create problems with the destructions. And of course, let's not forget that they're also food. And then we have the wasps. We have the sugar ant, the mosquitoes. These ones are the ones which are responsible for transmission of Plasmodium, the causative agent of malaria. Of course, you should know that in the mosquito we have the Anopheles, we have the Aedes, and then the Culex. So the female Anopheles mosquito transmits the malaria, the Aedes mosquito transmits the yellow fever, and then you have the Culex mosquito, which transmits the parasite for elephantiasis. And then you have the butterfly. The butterfly is special in that its larval stage is destructive, and then the adult phase is not such. The adult phase is important for pollination of crops. The major function of these insects is actually pollination of crops. If they are not pollinating, some of them are destroying. Let's look at the housefly. The housefly is actually called, in scientific terms, Musca domestica. You can underline that, the genus, the species name, and it belongs to the order Diptera. What are the characteristics of the animals in the order Diptera, or the insects in order Diptera? They have 1 pair of wings, just 1 pair. And then the hind wings are reduced into, there's a plug-like structure called halters that are used for balancing. So you cannot see the second pair of wings. Then we have also characteristics of a housefly. What are these characteristics of a housefly? We have pair of compound eyes, those are used for vision. We have expanded club-like proboscis. Their proboscis are in this shape. That is what we call club-like shape. Then they have simple eyes, also called ocelli. And then we have, their bodies are covered by hair, or hairy body. We have short hairy antennae, and then we have pair of wings and a pair of halters. We say the halters are reduced wings for balancing. So there are going to be a diagram, that is a diagram of the mouthparts of a housefly, the proboscis, and then you have the diagram of the hind limb of a housefly, and then you have the life cycle. Remember that insects undergo 2 kinds of life cycle. We have complete metamorphosis and incomplete metamorphosis. If we go back here to look at this, the housefly is complete metamorphosis, cockroach incomplete metamorphosis, the bee is complete, soldier termite complete, grasshopper incomplete, wasp complete, sugar ant, mosquito, and butterfly complete metamorphosis. So you're going to look at that. You can pause the video at any of that and study those diagrams, but let's look at the adaptations of the mouthparts of a housefly. Now, the housefly has a maxillary pulp, and this is flexible and are used for holding and tasting food. The hold and the taste food is in the maxillary pulp. Then you have the proboscis is expanded at the bottom, that club-like we said, and that is to increase the surface area for absorption of the food. And then there are tubular proboscis. Their proboscis is straw-like, so that they can suck liquid food from whatever they are feeding on. The ecological significance of housefly structures. Why are their structures the way they are? We say that claws are for gripping on surfaces during walking. We have hairs. Now the hairs always increase sensitivity to the environment so that they can respond faster. Then we have the granular part or aroleum on the feet, and those ones secrete a sticky substance that is used for walking on smooth surfaces like glass. Then we have jointed legs. Those ones simply increase flexibility during walking. What are the economic importances of the housefly? We say that the housefly causes disease. Some of the disease, dysentery, this is diarrhea, this is cholera, that is dangerous. You know, this is a disease that kills people, especially where the sanitation levels are low. And then we have the trachoma. This one affects the eyes, and then the typhoid fever. Now that this thing causes a lot of diseases in such a way, what are the way we can control them? How do we control this? So we can control by having general hygiene and cleanliness of our environment, by eating hot food, because when it is hot food, you cannot have these parasites, you cannot have the dirt in that food. They cannot land on hot food, so you eat hot food. Then you cover your food when you are not eating, so that they do not come and pee and contaminate your food. And then you can use insecticides to spray and kill them. Now, the second insect we are going to look at, we cannot look at all the insects we have talked about, but I want us to look at just the housefly, and then you look at the cockroach. The others you can look at your own time. They are pretty simple. This one is order Orthoptera, and the characteristics of this order is having biting mouthparts. Now this one is like the grasshopper in the order. Then you have thread-like antenna. The antenna is very long and slender, that's why we are saying thread-like, and then has a pair of anal sassi. Now, characteristics of a cockroach. How do we know that this is a cockroach? One is that it has a dorsoventrally flattened body. This is ventral, this is dorsal. So it is dorsoventrally flattened so that it can pass through cracks. That is an adaptation that allows it to enter cracks. Now, it has three main body parts. We say the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Let's look at the head of a cockroach. The head of a cockroach is triangular in shape. Okay? The diagram of a head of a cockroach is right there. Adaptations of a cockroach head to its ecology, to its way of life in the environment. We say that there are two pairs of dorsoventrally located compound eyes. The compound eyes are located dorsoventrally, dorsolaterally, up and on the side. Dorsal is up, lateral is on the side, so that it has a wider field of vision to see predators and to see food. Then the thorax is divided into three segments, and each segment has a pair of legs. And then we have modified mouthparts with strong mandibles for feeding. This one cut your peppers, they cut your clothes, and it is important for feeding. Then has a pair of long antennae for sensitivity. And you should know that the antenna has also adaptations to increase that survival rate. And one of it is that the antenna is segmented to increase flexibility. It tapers from head to reduce weight. At the base of the head it is wide, but as it goes away from the head, it is slender like that. Like that. That is what we call tapering. And that one reduces the weight. Then it is hairy to increase sensitivity. It is also hairy so that sensitivity is increased by each of those hairs. And then we have a broad base. At the part where attachment to the head of the cockroach occurs, we have a broad base for the firm attachment. Remember that the cockroach has a comma-shaped eye. Now, we are looking at the drawing of the leg of a cockroach. Structure of the leg of the cockroach is important for you to see and then to practice drawing because it is similar to other insects that you can be asked about. And then the adaptations of the hind leg to its function. We have long. The leg is long for quicker movement compared to, of course, if they were short. And then jointed. Jointness allows more flexibility of movement. And then we also have spines, just like in the grasshoppers, remember. The spines are used for defense. If you try to catch it, it pricks you with that spine. And then you have areola. Aroleum. Or the granular pad is secreted at the feet so that it can grip on smooth surfaces. And then you also have claws to grip on cracked surfaces during the insect's movement. Let's look at the wings. Now, there are two kinds of wings in a cockroach. We have the outer hard wing and the inner soft wing. And we can clearly see the distinction between the outer wing and the inner wing right here. The outer wing is dark colored, is not folded. It is opaque and it is narrow and also inflexible. But the inner wing is light in color, can be folded because it's so broad, and then it's transparent, and then it is also flexible. And each of that has functions or adaptations why they are like that. So adaptation of the wings to their function. We are looking at the outer wing, okay? This is actually adaptation of the outer wing to their function. Dark colored for camouflage or blending into the background. If it is in a dark background, you know they like dark corners, and then the wings are dark, you cannot clearly or easily see them. Then hard for protection. The outer wing is hard because it has to protect the inner wing and also the rest of the back of the insect, of the cockroach. And then it is slippery to avoid or to escape from grip. When you're trying to hold it, it slides off as like hair. It's like oily, okay? Then it has veins for strengthening the wing. We also have adaptations of the inner wings to their function, and one is flexibility so that they do not break when there is strong wind. If it was brittle and there's strong wind, it can break, but since there's flexibility, it cannot easily break. Then we have broad to generate the repulsive force that is needed for the flight. So it has a large surface area to provide a repulsive force for the flight. Then it has also veins for strengthening the wings. Those are the inner wings. How do we identify if this cockroach is male or it is female? A male cockroach has a narrow abdomen. It has the pair of what we call the styles. And then the female one does not have the style and it has a broad abdomen. And then, of course, that is a podicoplates where the eggs are always located. The styles are used for copulation. What of the mouth parts of the cockroach? I've divided this into the structure or the part, and then the function, and then the adaptation, just to make everything clear and easier. We have the mandible. From the diagram, use the diagram to know which is the mandible, which is any of these, so that you refer to it and then you can be looking at this. Any part of this, we can be faster than the time you have to pause and look at it closely. So we have the mandible, and its function is cutting and masticating food or breaking food into smaller pieces. And then the adaptation is it being strong and having sharp edges for the cutting. And then you have the maxilla, and this one's function is cutting and chewing the food. And we say that the adaptation to that is having the sharp edges. And then we also have the maxillary pulp, and this one's function is to taste food. Can you see that the cockroaches are also tasting food? Now, the adaptation is these are sensitive to food, and then they are jointed for flexibility. If it was not jointed, it would not be easily flexible. Then we have hairy to increase also sensitivity. The hairiness always increases sensitivity when it holds a food particle. Then we have the labium, which function is to taste food, and also we know that it is hairy. And of course we know that hairiness always increases the sensitivity in this insect. Now, an important thing you should notice that a cockroach has what we call incomplete metamorphosis. That means, unlike the housefly and other insects like the bee, this one goes from eggs to nymph and then to the adult. And then that means they have skipped the larva. Now the nymph is similar to the adult, but it is just immature, not having fully developed features. We look at the economic importances of the cockroach, and of course we say that it transmits germ. Remember, most of the times these cockroaches stay in dirty places, like the pit latrines. Most of them stay there. So when they move there and then they are covered with the germs, and then they come to our food in the house, they actually transmit germs that causes diseases. Their fecal particles contaminate dirty surfaces and clothes and even documents. On top of that, remember that they also eat. Most of the times you store your documents or papers or clothes, you find that they have eaten them up, and when they eat them up, they actually destroy them. Those are what we have for you in this part of classification.
We are looking at nutrition and basically